How to read a journal article. This video is going to cover what the anatomy of a journal article might look like. It's going to go through the different sections that you will find in a journal article, but it's also going to cover what you should be reading for different purposes. So if what you need is just to find evidence for some points that you're making, there are certain sections that will be useful to you. If you're making critical points about literature, there will be different sections that you need to read for that article. And if you are reviewing the literature and critically appraising research, there are different parts of that you would need to read again. So first, we are going to have a look at a journal article and identify the different sections and what jobs they're doing for that assignment. So I'm on the library homepage and I'm going to put in a search term. I've gone for social media marketing and COVID-19. I've filtered for journal articles in the last 5 years. And I've pinned an article that we're going to have a look at today. Because I've pinned it, it's yellow in my list. Let's open it up. Okay, and this is the article. So first of all, we need to check the bibliographic information about this article. All of the information that you will need to be able to reference it is in the top section of the article page. So first of all, we've got our list of authors is here. And if we click on their names, we get a bit more information about them. It tells us where they work and about some other articles that they've also written and published. We can see when the article was published. We've got the article title, and we can see the title of the journal. We've also got the volume and issue information and the DOI that's unique to this article. So all of that information is required to be able to produce a correct reference list entry for this article if you were to cite it. On the left-hand side, we've got a list of all of the contents of the article. Not all articles have got this useful feature, but if it's there, it's really, really handy because it means you can jump through those sections much more easily, and we're going to do that in a minute. But even if they don't have this list, this is the rough format that most journal articles will take. It starts off with the abstract. This is a summary of what's covered in this article. It gives you some brief indications about what kind of research it was, what the basic findings were, and what conclusions were made. And it's a good idea to always read the abstract to find out if this is likely to be something that's going to help you with the particular information you need. Underneath that, we've got the keywords that are linked to this article. And then we've got the introduction. This is the researchers providing information to you, the reader, on the background to this topic. It's explaining why this is important and providing you with the information that you need as the reader to understand the context of this research. That's followed by a literature review. This is an exploration of the previous research into this topic so that you can see the context for this piece of research. It will also enable you to identify if there were any gaps in the research before that this research is trying to fill, or whether this research is building on that previous research to add to the knowledge that's been available previously. We then have a methodology section. This is the section in which the researchers are explaining what they did to complete this piece of research, what methods they've used, what equipment and processes and theories they've used to be able to gather the data in order to come to their conclusions. After the methodology, we have the results section. This is the basic data. This is how many people were involved, what genders they were, what their marital status was, what their age groups were, and other information that was relevant to the study. Just literally presenting who's got involved and what information have they given us. It's not interpreted at this stage. This is just a presentation of those results. That is followed by a discussion in which those results are then interpreted and are related to the context of the topic. The researchers here are exploring the significance of the information that they found and what that means for this subject going forward. Following the discussion, we have an implications of study. This might be recommendations in some research reports. This is where, again, that information is summarised, but in a way that we're saying this is what we would recommend as a result. Following the recommendations, we have a conclusion in which the whole project is summarised. In this piece of research, we've also got declarations. This might also be part of the ethical considerations for the research, followed by 2 appendices in which additional information is presented. And finally, there is the list of references for this article. In this case, there is also figures and tables that you can see as being included in the project as well. There are also some additional features on some journal article platforms. This one, for example, is recommending articles to you that may be related to your subject. And you can also explore the metrics for this article. This is how many other researchers have cited this article and how many people have read it through different platforms as well. That can give you an indication of how well used this article is. And while that doesn't tell you about its quality, it might actually sort of give you an idea about how impactful this might have been. So returning to the slides, let's think about which parts of the article that you might use for different reasons. So for example, if you're studying at level 4, if you're a first year student, or you're doing like an essay question type assignment, you might just have some facts, some points that you want to make that you need to find evidence for. And journal articles are likely to be able to provide that for you. If that's the case, it would be important to read the abstract and then read the introduction, the background or rationale section, and also the discussion and conclusion sections. You are likely to find the evidence that you need within those sections. Your lecturers will be expecting to see that you're using journal articles to help inform your evidence. So make sure that you do this routinely as you're carrying out your assignments. However, you might also be required to demonstrate critical thinking. If you're a level 5 or higher, this will be expected of you. So in this case, read everything that I've said before for finding evidence, but also read the aims of the research, the aims and objectives of the research, and what their methods and methodology were. This will allow you to identify critical points that you could make. Were the aims appropriate? Were the methods appropriate? Were they enough to gather the information that was required to answer that research question? That might be positive or negative. It might be yes, they are appropriate, or actually no, they were not quite robust enough in order to achieve that effectively. You've also got an opportunity to look for limitations of the research that you could then make critical points about. The sample size might be really small, for example, which would be a limitation. And on a positive front, you could then look for recommendations that have been made, things that have been suggested that can be adopted to support practice in this area in the future, which will allow you to make a positive critical point. Now, if you're level 6 or above, so if you're doing your final year research project, or you are a master's student doing your dissertation, or a PhD student writing your thesis project, you need to read everything that's meant to be mentioned before, but you also need to look through those results very carefully, and you also need to examine the analysis of those results, whether that's statistical analysis, thematic analysis, or narrative analysis. So effectively, to be able to critically appraise an article, you need to read the entire article. In summary then, the more you read journal articles, the easier it becomes, the more you get used to the structure and the language that's being used. But how much of the article you need to read may depend on some factors. It might depend on the reason that you need to use that information. It might be related to the type of assignment you're doing or your level of study. But you should expect to read journal articles in greater detail as you progress through your course. So it's a great idea to start as early as possible, becoming familiar with their features and reading them regularly so that you find this as easy as possible. We hope you found this video helpful in encouraging you to explore journal articles.